경기의 분기점이 됐었던 장면 또 준비를 해봤거든요. 이 장면이었죠? 누가 바로 오더를 했나요?
네.
정확히 오더를 내린 선수는 없었던 건가요? 네, 알겠습니다.
네.
누군지 알 것 같아요.
아니야.
때려.
나 갈 수 있어.
붙였어 스턴. 야 이거 보자. 이거 보자.
예.
그리고
뜨면
잡혔죠?
뜨면.
죽었어요.
바로 되겠는데.
야 꼭 미리 와봐.
기다려.
나텔 있다.
타야 돼.
지금?
졌어 형 탔어 얘네 탔다고 텔도 탔어
싸움 빠져 싸움.
자, 근데 진영아는 이건 참을 수 없죠.
잡을 수 없죠.
얘네 이거 버스 한다 나이스 이제
이거 혈산병 들었죠. 혈산병 초 대박.
야좀 빼면서 빼.
혈산이 초 대박이었어요.
아 죽었다. 나이스 잘하고 있어 우리.
이제 이거 좀 더 싸움 봐야 되는데 바로 너무 맞았는데.
거기다 룰러까지.
참을 수 없었습니다.
와.
이거.
아 너무 오버했다. 이거 싸움을 보는 건데.
네, 알겠습니다.
네.
누군지 알 것 같아요.
아니야. 기억이 안 나서.
가는 중.
나다. 야 와드 없어. 바론 되겠는데. 이거 바론 될 것 같아.
음악이신 19금이냐? SM처럼 19금 아니야?
19금은 판이 있을걸요?
아 그래? 19금 하면 찬호가 몇 살이었지? 그러면 찬호 19살 이런 이미지였는데
지금이요?
아니 얼마 전까지는 찬호보다 나이가 어린 애들 하시면 훨씬까지는 아니다. 네가 22인가 이제?
하나
하나?
늙었다 이제
늙은 건 아니고
보니까 우리 팀이 평균연령 거의 제일 높던데
트레이스가 있는데 니네가 제일 높다고?
네
트레이스 윙드가 있는데?
네.
진짜? 그럴 리가.
저희 고교도 23에다가
아 그러게
미드도
그럴만 하겠다.
뿐이 다 돼. 페이커 안쪽 들어갔다.
앞전면에 썼다가
페이커 안쪽
이거 완전
페이커. 대치매. 야
괜찮다.
야 가만히 완전 대처.
와.
내 판이로구나. 네. 가만히 있는 썬디. 뭐죠? 올킬?
예.
자, 아프리카와의 경기에는 승리 이후에 이제 연승으로 분위기를 바꾸는 KT입니다.
요즘에 안 나올 거예요
왜요? 나오지.
제가 잘하는 나라
MVP 선수들과 얘기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 네, 썸데이 선수.
제가 잘하는 나라
매 매치업이 모두 다 스토리가 있습니다.
뭐니 하냐? 그리고 플래스까지 두면.
터졌어요. 아름다운 배치기였습니다.
스토리의 반격.
역시 임방류.
빠졌습니다.
함께하는 저희의 첫 합방이잖아요.
합방이요?
노래를 저도 모르겠어요.
풍성한 주 6일째 온라인과 온에어로 즐기는 롤챔스 코리아 썸머.
생방송의 묘미가 있네요 지금. 짜장면 최고 몇 개?
영광입니다.
굴비. 네.
매주 각각의 매력 있는 중계와 함께 즐기세요. 2016 코카콜라 제로 롤챔스 코리아 썸머.
We can sync with the fast track. All eyes are searching to the black. Come back and get back a little more. You got
Janair Greenwing. MVP. 2016 Coca-Cola Zero League of Legends Champions Korea Summer, Round 1.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another day. Beginning of week 5 here of the LCK. We're going to kick things off, of course, with a piggyback broadcast. I'm Achilleos, with me is Papa Smithy tonight, and we are actually back in the main studio, not in our enclosed little room. We're in the main arena, and as you can tell, there's so many people in here.
Yeah, you can really hear the sound of them. So many fans here, and of course, it's one of those days where the fans are elsewhere in another studio in Seoul, so it's the two of us in a big empty room.
Yep. Should be good.
Korean casters as well.
Yeah, we do. We actually do have the Korean casters alongside us today, so that makes it a little bit interesting. We'll hear them yelling rather from the sidelines. But we got MVP versus Janair Greenwings for you guys today. Janair, of course, coming off of that hot victory over SK Telecom, giving their first match loss. Now going to be going up against somewhere the 8th or 9th place team, I believe.
But it's ironic that both these teams, actually, their last matches were against SKT. It was actually 1 week ago today that MVP were brutally put to the sword by SK Telecom.
Nearly as well as Janair's game did.
That was definitely an R-rated match, you'd have to say, of League of Legends, SKT versus MVP. But then Janair defined their season in a lot of ways by beating SKT pretty convincingly, you'd have to say, 2-1. They were the better team over the course of 3 games, so a lot to take there. They will be playing the same roster, so definitely not considering putting Blanc into the mid lane. Will be Kuzan again, who really been stacking on the MVP points. He was the sole MVP in both those games last week, in both their victories.
And I find that a little bit surprising. MVP definitely going to be one of the weaker teams, so you thought maybe you would want to give Blanc a little bit more play time, have him go up against...
I mean, every team does
Ian
it different, right? Longzhu were kind of wholesale changes last season. SKT have been playing with Blanc from time to time, giving him match experience after the loss. Maybe we'll see some more Blanc from SK Telecom in their matches this week, but that's right. No Blanc today. Sticking with Kuzan, looking to pile on some points, I guess.
Yeah, Blanc and Blanco is so confusing to listen to, but we'll take a look at the global standings here. EULCS G2 still undefeated over in Europe. TSM as well. They have lost a couple games, but they've been winning their matches. And Immortals and Team Envy very much hot on their heels.
Renegades, second strongest team in NA. Doesn't look so silly now that Envy, second overall in NA. Yep, G2 have been very impressive in EU. In LPL, we actually saw Edward Gaming and Royal Never Give Up play on the weekend. That went 2-1 over to EDG. They are undefeated. Royals played one more game score, so they both have 6 wins, but increasingly looking like those are by far the 2 strongest teams in China.
Nothing like we didn't really expect, and Flash Wolves going to be rounding out the top of the LMS standings. AHQ not really finding their spot, but here we go, our MVPs so far for the summer split. Smeb all over your face, still sitting in that top spot, looking for a double MVP repeat at the end of the splits.
But Kuzan, already 4 MVPs in 8 games. He's played less games than any of the other people on the front, so lots of like there. SKT still dominating in a lot of areas in terms of being top of these charts. Duke, definitely. He's come a long way from 16, but this is the big story. Winged has actually come up in the jungle. To me, he was been an outstanding, consistent performer for this team so far over the season. And in the mid lane, once again, we will have a sample size issue, but Kuzan, given the 8 games he's played, is actually pipping Faker to #1.
Yeah, and you know, that game that we saw from SK Telecom against Janair really hurting these KDAs, especially Dukes, who is monstrous.
It's a halved almost, 16-8.
Yeah, playing that Fiora in the last game, just getting absolutely bodied, really hurt them. You can see Banks still doing pretty well, has a decent advantage over the rest of his competition, and Wolf. So the bot lane of SK Telecom still looking pretty good, but everybody in general looking really shaky just last Friday.
We finally saw the convincing Fiora player. Someday got his first chance on 6-11 and slammed some fools in our last day of the LCK. Looking at the ladder once again, SKT definitely ahead on percentage or in terms of head-to-head. They are +3 game score over Janair, but lot to like about Janair, and they're just looking to, at least for tonight, be top of the LCK.
Yep. And MVP, of course, only having that one win. They played one less game than ESC and still have the same match score. So if they get 2-0 tonight here by Jin Air Green Wings, which, granted, it's a fairly likely situation, they'll very much be very slightly above CJ Entus for last place.
But coming back to my point, winning today, Jin Air actually go top. And before that series against Jin Air, you would have thought that SKT would maybe be top the whole season, never be pipped. So even if it's just because they've played an extra series, that's actually a really big result because, honestly, as I said, after that series a week ago where they completely destroyed MVP, I thought SKT was going to cakewalk their way to -- 1. So it's actually a pretty significant game for Jin Air. And let's remember the reputation of this team. They've been known as the Robin Hood of teams here in the LCK. They rob from the rich, and they give to the poor. And MVP definitely would qualify as the poor.
I think I can agree with you on that one. Jin Air, though, going to be on your screen at the moment. Again, Kuzan will be starting. No sign of block quite yet, but very much could change. If they come out, smash their first game, maybe they'll feel comfortable to go ahead, throw them in, give them some play time. Or if something goes wildly wrong with Kuzan, they might have to swap him out. But I think the likelihood of that happening is going to be slim to none. Winged, of course, going to be the big player on the side of Jin Air that we're going to keep our eyes on because he has been really excelling in the jungle so far.
But by that token, Beyond also deserves his plaudits for MVP. This guy, 3 wins for the organization, 3 MVPs to Beyond. So he has been the consistent performer in their wins, and it's on fun, different champions. This guy was playing AP Amumu, so that's the sort of thing. AP Amumu jungle, carrying with it as well. So anything's possible with him, but we're already ready to get into game.
Yeah, definitely does have those surprising picks, so we'll go ahead and get straight into the pick and ban. You can see the KDA charts, so really not looking so hot. The closest that they do have is going to be ADD going up against Trace, who Trace has been playing more of the utility tops. He hasn't been on the carries like we saw from him last split, where he would bring out the Gangplank from time to time when he could get his hands on it and really excel in that regard. We've seen Shen from him, so not really going to be stacking up those KDA numbers as high as we would expect. But you can see Varus going to be taken away. Very crucial ban from Ian, followed by the Rek'Sai and the Rise over on the side of MVP. Going to be very consistent. It's going to be that Nidalee, the Trundle, and Vladimir.
And this is what you were speaking about. On 6-11, we've seen from Trace so far Shen, Echo, Trundle, and Nash. So very much going to be the old school tanks. He was still playing the Echo. They got a victory with it, but we haven't been convinced with Echo after all the nerfs specifically targeted at tank Echo. So we're still waiting for Trace to take that next step. Show us a 6-11 champion. We've been waiting for the first Illaoi in the LCK too, and Trace has always loved these off-meta picks. People probably forget his old AD Rengar top days, so I think Illaoi would definitely be an intriguing pick that kind of would be a Trace special.
One that fits the bill. You see though, Elise is going to be the first pickup here for Jin Air. So Wing's going to be rocking that champion, and right now MVP looking to take away the SK Telecom special. This is what Jin Air banned against them in all 3 games. That Karma and Sivir off the board, get rid of that AoE move speed, and then they ended up just running all over him. But we can see it will be Sivir coming through, but it's also going to be the Shen.
The blind Shen pick. Now Shen, of course, has gone up in priority a bit against a champion like Aurelia. It's always been a decent laning phase. But there are champions that can deal with him pretty well. If you force him to itemize away from Sunfire Cape, so maybe into Spirit Village first, champion like Rumble can do some things, but doesn't have an interrupt. But again, with the auto attackers, with the Triforce top laners, the dodge field from W is relevant. Shen allows you to create these pseudo pick comps. In fact, Jin Air were playing the LeBlanc with TP and Shen top lane to extreme effectiveness. So it's kind of a takeaway pick in both regards, as the Sivir has been a pretty big staple of Pilot as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of staples, there's the Azir here for Kuzan perhaps.
I'm a long way through the draft really for Azir. Even after the nerfs, Azir's been either perma-banned or first rotation picked in LCK.
I don't know if we've seen Ian play Azir yet, have we?
Maybe one game. It's definitely not one of his staples. It's more the Ahri school of thought than the Azir.
Well, Varus especially for him, but that went off the board. But we can see not going to let Karma go through to the next round, so they can still net that double move speed composition. So they take it away from themselves, whether or not... Well, actually, no, that will be the support there for Jay, as the Azir, of course, is locked in. So Kuzan going to be bringing that one to the table. We'll see what
clear wars.
Looks like that might be it. If they go ahead and lock the Victor in.
So
they have a long hover, but not a whole lot else, like really priority picks that they would go for at this point.
That's fair, and it'd be the double line wave clear with Sivir and Victor, so the Stolfest definitely a possibility there. If you have a champion like Fiora, it's great to have Sivir, Victor in other lanes, but Shen, another champion without great wave clear that can really open up a carry, so you can go for riskiness in other parts of the map. And speaking of riskiness, I mentioned that Ian does love that Ahri, specifically in the promotion series was defaulting to that champion. So we've been waiting and hoping for the Ahri to be seen playing LCK because no one else is really playing the Ahri.
Yeah, well, looks like they're going to go ahead and save that last pick for the mid lane. It will be Graves in the jungle for Beyond, something, as you mentioned, the promotion series, we saw a good amount from him with stealing away Barons and Dragons.
We also saw it a week ago against SKT, and it got run over in that infamous Game 1. Also worth noting that Winged actually put out a carry performance on the Graves in that Game 3 against SKT and just completely out-jungled Bengi. So,
or Triforce, his Thunderlords, the Thunderlords Graves is what I'm going for here. That was just a stupid amount of damage with Dustblade and everything on top of it.
So in general, a lot of takeaway picks, you'd have to say, by MVP. These are picks that Jin Air have been playing to really good effectiveness. Now we need to see AD carry and top laner. Will we finally see something crazy from Trace? That's what we're hoping for.
Yep.
It could be the Gnar that he played to, let's say, mixed success in his career, and it didn't look great this season. But he's mousing over the Aurelia. That'd be great to see.
We could just see this come out. I mean, we saw a very interesting build with the Aurelia just the other day. Went for second item Wit's End after the Triforce, and then built full tank.
Cuvée.
Yeah. Later
he did
on,
eventually sell it.
Yeah, he did sell it a little bit later on. He realized, oh, you know what? I don't need this much MR. I can actually survive with a little bit less. He sold that and got a Blade of the Rune King later on in the game, but it was very effective. We can see that it will be locked in, so Trace now going to be trying his hands at a very aggressive top laner. How that one's going to go into the Shen doesn't seem like it's going to be the best, but...
Well, Shen has been the answering pick in a lot of matchups, has the ability to have that dodge field in lane. In general, goes for a tank. He can build Sunfire very happily and just try and hold the wave, and then has more options with the Stand United and the Summoner Spell Teleport. So definitely not going to be killing the Aurelia in the matchup, but flexible, safe, a good team pick. So very much going for Aurelia because one of the few top laners available, and we see the final lock-in will be returned to the LeBlanc for Ian. So not quite Ahri, but same sort of flavor with the LeBlanc.
Right now, Kuzan's hovering over the barrier. Whether or not he's going to change that, we'll have to see. I think he's going to go ahead and keep that one just to try to mitigate a lot of that burst. Sometimes you could see the exhaust coming out.
I mean, the cleanse here is not as necessitated. If it was a jungle Elise or something like that, you definitely take cleanse. Barrier gives you the most selfish defensive stats, and it's on a shorter cooldown after the big changes to the Ghost and, for example, the barrier down to, I believe, 180 seconds on that ability. So going to be up more often, so not as short a cooldown as, of course, LeBlanc's all-ins, but will provide defensive options. We'll confirm if that's the take as the draft goes on, but interesting to see Trace finally return to his carry roots on the Aurelia, even though the matchup not necessarily going to be the most forgiving for Aurelia.
Not at all, but again, big matchup point here is going to be these junglers. Beyond has been somewhat the shining light of the team of MVP, from time to time at least. That was very much a snuffed out light against SK Telecom.
Winged has been a pillar of consistency. Whether it's been on the carry-focused junglers or the more lane-focused ganking junglers, Winged has been super consistent. He innovated in a lot of ways in spring season with Red Smite and Sightstone. A lot to like about Winged and a lot to like about Jin Air, but again, a bit of a trap game. They're expected to win and win easily, but anything can happen with Jin Air.
Yep. Well, we'll see if they live up to that Robin Hood name or if they will actually be able to maintain their dominance up in that top side and just continue their path toward first place. We're going to find out when we get into Game 1. Let's go ahead. MVP versus Jin Air Green Wings. All right, Mountain Drake will start us off. So glad to not see Cloud Drake, because good lord, that's all Monte Cristo and I had just a couple days ago, really.
Sounds like you had your head in the clouds, Achilles.
Aha! We did actually have a very fun game with the Triple Infernal, but then a lot of the other ones after that were all Cloud, so it makes for a very boring first, 15 minutes of the game.
Again, there's two schools of thought. Some people just go kill that Cloud Drake, try to re-roll for a better one, but increasingly, you just don't want to make trades where you get the Cloud Drake and the enemy gets a permanent gold from the turret in general. Maybe a Rift Herald is kind of, depending on the matchup, is acceptable, but you never really want to trade for a Cloud Drake.
Yep. Absolutely not. So, I don't know. We'll see how long he sticks around with his move speed buff. Feel like there's got to be some kind of change in the works over at Riot Games. And again, maybe there's not.
Looking through the match history of Trace, it is possible that he has never played a competitive game on Aurelia. That doesn't seem like a thing that's possible for a guy who's been around since 2013, but according to the statistics I have, he has never played a competitive game of Aurelia.
Surprising. Well, we'll see how it goes today. Whether or not he'll be able to find some success. We'll just have to sit back and wait. I mean, going in against the Shen, it's definitely going to be an interesting way to kick things off for yourself. But if he can come out on top, that'd be a very strong showing for Trace and his abilities in that top side, as still the oldest member here in LCK, and pretty much one of the oldest players in the world at the moment for League of Legends.
And he really redefined his image last season, you know, despite his age. Came up, had a big champion pool. Graves top was something that he brought up that other regions were playing. So he's shown already that he can reinvent himself. It's just crazy that a guy who's been around this long has never played a competitive game of Aurelia. But you look at Bang and his 2 games of Ashe lifetime, and these are just the realities. Some players just don't play certain champions.
Yep. But for now, it's just going to be trying to farm up in that top side. You can see, of course, the Doran Shield for ADD. It's been increasingly popular. But Winged, for the gank from the bottom side. Maha gonna flash away, but the tether still lands. He just uses the spell shield at the wrong time, but they turn back onto Trace, trying to get the kill. The Ignite sticking one last auto attack, finds the first blood. Trace goes in to try to stop the Shen. He will just dash back in. They fire back a kill, taking out Maha. Repel up into the air. Wing trying to get out of there, but he gets taken down beyond. Flashes in for the point blank auto and takes him down. Nice play there by MVP, pulling out 2 and getting the first blood over top of Jin Air.
Oh, but that was really botched from Jin Air's side. Their target focus was really desperately poor. They changed between a couple of members, so there were just 2 flashing health bars, and they just got Zerg down to go 1 for 2 when they had the jump on this whole situation. Because look what happened. Che, he held onto the root, onto Maha, but half of them are going for Maha, half of them are going for Max. They get neither, so Karma dies for free. And even though they rotate first, they lose out 1 for 2. So that was a rare misstep in the early game from Jin Air Greenwings.
Yeah. They have to tighten that up if they want to come out with a victory here, because MVP, they're going to be thirsty for it. We've seen Beyond go off on this Graves in the past, and him getting that early kill and now a substantial CS lead just 4 minutes in. It's not a good look.
And in general, MVP, you know, they rolled over and died against SKT. That much is for certain, as Max takes a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's taking a ton, but a double bubble comes through. The tether is not going to chain him, and he will be able to walk out with his life. So nicely placed W there from the Na'Vi. Beyond going to walk into lane, just get some damage down onto Kuzan. Fires back, actually gets that Thunderlord's proc onto the Graves. Winged arriving just a little bit too late to try to capitalize on that.
Just to finish the point, outside of that specific game against SKT, MVP have been pretty good. You know, they had the heartbreaking loss against KT,
yep.
A lot of narrow losses, good victory previously to get their first of the season against CJ, I believe it was. So in general, they've played pretty well. They've definitely not been a no-hoper at the bottom of the ladder. So they are no pushovers, despite that 1 data point 1 week ago where they very much were taken out by SKT.
I feel like pretty much everybody had their first win against CJ.
That's true.
It just seems to be how everything happened. ESC had theirs, and then they got bopped by MVP. But CJ has been looking considerably better as of late. Their last match was pretty convincing as far as their improvement against Samsung.
2-1 win to Samsung, but a lot to like about CJ, like you mentioned. Even Haru was really performing pretty well.
Yeah.
As expected, CJ can play Kindred. It's been confirmed. Whatever the jungler name, they can play Kindred.
Just get rid of the Kindred and you cripple the team.
We see series where Kindred isn't picked or banned, so outside chance always to pick up that Kindred.
Yeah. She is going to be a little bit more, you know, niche these days after the nerfs coming through. I mean, we did see her just earlier today in the NALCS videos playing her quite well.
Really peculiar first item here from Beyond. Now we've seen Lyra only Sin go for Boots Mobility Rush, which has semblance of sense, but rushing Berserker Greaves on Graves, a champion that doesn't interact with attack speed very well to begin with, because of course his attack speed gain is much lower, so you don't actually get full value out of attack speed when it comes to his reload mechanic and his auto attacks. It does get some scaling around it. I believe it specifically does help the amount of time between the two shots, so
Yeah.
from the first to second shot, but this is more about the movement speed and being present around the map, and it does make up a little bit for the fact that, of course, Graves has that farming jungler vibe. So if he can actually use that movement speed to both take the early camps and be around for the counter gank, then it can be a decent purchase for Graves.
We'll have to keep our eyes on that one and see how he's going to be able to move around the map. But definitely a unique purchase. We haven't seen that ever.
I mean, 611's been fun because we've seen so many new types of boots. I mean, part of that is because Riot went super heavy-handed nerfing Boots of Swiftness multiple times, but Ninja Tabi and Berserker Greaves are both compelling purchases right now.
And Merc Treads got buffed up a little bit ago,
Sure.
so pretty much all of them except for Ionian getting some sort of change.
Don't see a lot of Ionian, but of course the buff that gave that cooldown reduction to summoner spells was a significant one many moons ago.
Yep.
No distortion boots anymore, so don't have many options if you want summoner spell cooldown reduction.
See the wave crashing into the tower there for Ian. Has fallen considerably behind. So on almost a 20 CS lead at this point. Did have that roam down to the bot to get the assist, so he does have a bit of gold. You can see he's going to be behind by about 300, so he definitely needs to pick up these waves and try to get in here. The chain is not going to connect. Kuzan will stay safe, and now you can see Beyond clearing out that pink board as well, so they get some sight on that Graves. So they can try to predict where he's going to go around the map. You can see he also went back, did pick up the Tracker's Knife, so not going to be looking at the Skirmisher Saber, which we do sometimes see, or even the Chilling Smite that we saw pulled out.
Looking over the comp and just trying to make sense of what MVP have. Ironically, Jinair ran a pretty similar solo lane comp. I mentioned it in the Champ Select versus, they were running it versus, I believe it was Afrika with the LeBlanc Shen. What this comp does, and especially if you factor in early movement speed on the Graves can actually try to take the alpha role in the jungle here, walk into the enemy jungle, and he has double teleport and Shen ultimate to back him up. So you can actually play as if you have a mid laner like Twisted Fate and be super aggressive on the Graves and know that when it comes to rotations, you will always have your solo lanes faster. Shen will be there, and LeBlanc, just a fast roamer to begin with, and with teleport, even faster. So could see Beyond play really aggressive with this particular lineup.
Yep. Trace up top, going to try to trade some damage back onto ADD. This is that ultimate, but the minion waves are just ripping through his HP bar just as much. So trade in the end will be fairly even. Ultimate's on a short cooldown, so you can use that pretty loosely.
Beyond face checks the pink board.
Gets caught by the Cocoon, but it's fine, still able to clear that one out. The chain will connect onto Kuzan, but of course no further damage going to be coming out. Just going to be some trading back and forth between these mid laners. You can see the Null Magic Mantle there for Ian, going to be looking for that Abyssal Scepter start. Whereas Kuzan feeling comfortable, even with that high burst mage against him. Just going to go straight for that Nashor's Chain.
We'll wait and see if Winged is inspired by what Peanut was doing last week with the Proto Belt Elise.
Yeah, I would love to see that one again.
Saw Dexter talking about it on Twitter, messing around with in solo queue. It seems like a lot of junglers are really enjoying the build, and if you hit a Cocoon, then you can get multiple missiles with the Proto Belt, get into melee range, and we all know about the executes in Elise's kit, so if you're feeling like your team needs some damage, Proto Belt Elise seems like a really nice flexible option for a champion that always had a really open build path from the jungle.
Yeah, it's nice to see Peanut do that. Bring back the interesting adaptations in his builds and be super aggressive. You can see Trace is trying to bait ADD in here. He's going to get the stun off. He walks back forward to trade Winged, not finding the opening yet. Beyond's on the roam over, so we will have a 2v2 up on the top side. Of course, Stand United available for ADD should he have to channel it onto the Grave. So far, ADD's just not biting.
Elise is still there as well, though, so a lot of patience from the junglers. Here we go.
Goes in for the taunt. Trace is down to about half HP, throws out the ultimate. Beyond's coming around the sidelines. Winged as well. Sees that they were just going to turn straight onto him, so he backs off.
Allow.
Oh, that's a ward in the top river that he got spotted by.
Ah, okay.
I thought it was a Scuttle Crab at first. I was like, well, he would know to go around the Scuttle Crab, but it's actually a ward at the base of the ramp by the look of it.
It's really good timing for the counter gank from Beyond, and the more important thing is he's there to help push in. Remember, Shen, pre-Sunfire Cape, finds it very hard to push in a minion wave, so does allow the preferential back timing to come for ADD. Looks like he might even be greedy. Now if he sticks around, he'll get an extra wave and push in, so happy times for the Shen.
Yep. And Trace is just going to be walking back, so he's going to lose a bit of those waves that are crashing in at the moment, so this will give ADD a very nice time to just take a slight advantage. And now with the Bombing Cinder and the Chain Vest already in his inventory, he should be able to back off and go ahead and pick up that much-desired Sunfire Cape. And then he'll really start winning these trades.
His build is looking interesting. He actually has the parts that usually symbolize
IE
an Infinity Edge, but still outside chance that he pivots and just wanted a bit of extra AD for wave clear.
Well, he had the pickaxe on the first back after getting first blood, so it is very possible that they still go for Essence Reaver.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But, I mean, we have seen a couple Sivers that still go for the Infinity Edge first.
I mean, if you're feeling lucky, if you're going to be a gambler, if you get an auto attack crit into a Ricochet auto attack crit, then basically you win the lane or win a trade. So there is some value in that. Of course, Infinity Edge, we'll see a couple of buffs in 6-12 that mean that we might see a little bit more of that, but it's just 5 AD, so perhaps we will still see people refer to it as the AD death cap and still go for something like a Zeal item first.
We'll keep eye on that one for sure, whether or not he wants to gamble. We'll be determining. Koreans aren't really gamblers.
I mean, Riot's already enforced a gambling meta with RNG Drakes, so...
It's very true.
You're right, it is illegal for Koreans to gamble in Korea. We can gamble, though, Achilles.
Yes, we can.
If you're feeling like rolling the dice, we can always go.
I don't play craps.
Okay.
But I'll do roulette.
So your casino games, in order, what would they be? What would be your #1 casino game?
Roulette, then blackjack.
Right, you got gambling. You're a gambling man.
And then probably poker and slots after that. Oh, Pilot. He's alright.
I do like a bit of poker myself. Especially in a previous life. I actually replaced poker as my main pastime with League of Legends about 7 years ago, and that's worked out pretty well.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, it worked out pretty well, really.
Could have been a poker caster.
That's true. Oh, the what ifs. Let's shuffle up and deal, Achilles.
It's alright. Now I want to go to the casino.
Alright, well.
One day.
We've got a series to get through first, Achilles.
Yeah. Alright, confirm. We're going to casino after the series.
Nice. We're putting it all on black?
I don't know.
You've already ummed and ahed too long, so clearly we are not.
Yeah, we gotta go for red.
Alright.
You have to look for the pattern. See the
I don't want to hear you
the computer screen that reads off like the past hits. You gotta go for the pattern, man. The pattern has won me some money in the past. All right, so
oh dear,
adhere to the pattern. No, also just don't take gambling advice from me, guys.
Don't gamble, kids. It's bad.
You'll lose more than you invest.
And adults gamble responsibly.
Do they?
I'm just giving them advice. Gamble responsibly.
Oh, I thought that you were making a statement.
No.
That adults gamble responsibly. I was like, I know a lot of people that don't do that.
We don't espouse those sort of things on this LCK1 stream.
But we have to have something. We can't have cigars or wine for Gentleman Jogath. Can we have gambling?
Taking away the wine was like, that cut me pretty deep. I'm going to be real. I remember the genesis, the community genesis of Gentleman Joe's the first legendary many years ago.
Oh, who's on though? Taking a ton of damage. That Jane's going to be flashed forward by Ian to connect
coming
it.
in too.
Taking a ton of damage. The barrier not going to be enough to keep him alive. And now Wing caught out by the bubble. He goes down. That one going to be picked up by the Shen. Nicely played here by MVP, and they're not done yet. Chasing onto Trace. Don't have a red buff here for the slow. They throw out the smoke bomb.
Does have the movement speed though.
Trying to get on here. 80 flashes over the wall. Gets the taunt, and they take him down. A second kill now for the Graves, and it's 5-1. Jay, though, shows up in the mid lane. Flashes forward with the Ignite. Takes out Ian, so they do find a fireback kill. But still, MVP coming up with 3 in the mid.
This really was smart, playing around the Shen ultimate. They were able to get Shen into the midst of the fight. So while it looked like a bubble, was actually the Shen taunt first. But watch the extended trade. The big story, of course, is Stand United. You think Jin Air would know about this. They ran the same comp. But the block gets in there. Shen taunt into bubble. Goodbye. And then we saw the chase and the boots rush. You know, the Berserker Greaves coming in. Ian lives on just a sliver of health. But they can chase in. ADD has his flash. Flashes over the pretty thick part of the wall, but does it successfully. And that means a lot of early gold. And suddenly, the Robin Hood fairy tale is looking a little bit more likely as MVP have a nice early lead.
Yeah, 1.4 thousand for them so far. Lanes are still losing fairly significantly in CS. We can see 20 discrepancy in the bottom lane here for Pilot, who's actually going for the Essence Reaver build, the more the classic for this Lucian.
And Maha's gambling. He went for IE first.
I'm gonna have to report him to the police. I think he's A, too young, and B, not allowed to gamble.
Actually, the B is the first point.
Well, yeah.
He's really not allowed.
He's not allowed, and he's also too young.
No one's been killing Mountain Drake. You'd think it was a Cloud, but...
We had a 29-minute Cloud take. We thought that we weren't going to see a single Dragon take from that whole game, and then it got ruined for us.
Does it stay as a Cloud if no Drake is taken before 35 minutes?
See, this one I'm not sure of.
I'm going to say yes.
I feel like the Elder... Well, it would have to, really, because the Elder's effectively worthless then.
If you think about it,
So it's
so
like
the Rift
you
Herald
need
was
the
replaced
stacks.
by Baron, but I don't believe there is that precedent for
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to take the prior Drakes, because otherwise you don't get the
It has
buff.
a base value.
You don't get... Well, it's not nearly as good. You're just taking a really lesser Baron at that point.
And yet we still see some interesting trades of Baron and Elder Drake.
I feel like there's a moment for that. You have, like, triple Infernal. but
Sure.
It's good, but...
Also, if you have super hard initiation and you can make sure you fight in the next minute and a half, by all means, consider it. Just when we see these kite comps take an Elder Drake in exchange for the Baron, I'm like, no, 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 that's not how it works. Just like Longzhu in their last series against Rocks.
Oh, Longzhu.
One day we'll get around the Longzhu mystery.
I don't know if we will.
Send the Hardy Boys then. Do you know who the Hardy Boys are?
Yes,
to
I
this?
know
You're
who
young.
I'm young, but I'm not that young.
Okay.
I know the Hardy Boys.
Kids of the 90s know this.
I hate that whole 90s
Yep.
kids stick to, like, no.
Trace has Infinity Edge, but a lot of effective health and the Sunfire means that Shen can just trade CS in the top lane, which sounds good for Aurelia, but Shen becomes immovable and will always have that teleport advantage just by virtue of having Stand United.
Oh, really deep invade here by Beyond and Ian as they go
Trace
forward.
has no teleport, and they have a Shen, so they need to be very careful about contesting the buff. This is the playstyle I was talking about that you can do.
Wing does get it with the Q. Ian dashes forward with the distortion, snaps back, finds
Here we go.
Kuzan. Here comes Stand United. Kuzan goes to the wall, still gets locked up. Nice Emperor's Divide, popping him back over. Keeps himself alive, but the ultimate has to be used.
Wow, Kuzan was actually pretty greedy. He channeled that very late. I thought he might be too late, but just as the Shadow Dash was completing, it comes to him. Now we might see a trade of turrets. Kuzan still has his barrier, but with no ult.
Oh, Ian goes deep, has the chain, and
Whoa.
collateral damage from downtown will finish him off. Cocoon goes out, but that's not going to do anything to stop MVP from taking out that Tier 1 tower.
They're
And
not
looks
done.
like they are not. They're going to keep continuing on to this Tier 2, and they have the damage to take this. Jin Air can't do a damn thing to stop it. They'll get the Tier 1 on the top side, but losing both of your turrets in mid, that is crippling.
Exactly. Now there can be so much deep vision for a flank teleport from the likes of either the LeBlanc or the Shen. A team with double TP taking down both mid lane turrets pre-20 minutes can be a disaster for the side of Jin Air. They only show River City Nami for a second, so I don't get a chance to tell her to close her mouth. But that was once again Kuzan. He did not use the barrier in that exchange. I don't know if he would have lived, it would have been close, but he's been very greedy with these summoners. And some people pull it off. Faker comes to mind on that regard, but got a bit lucky with the ultimate previously and then just didn't use the barrier and died.
Yeah. Well, Jin Air definitely going to have to try to turn things around. I mean, at this point, they just haven't been able to net themselves really any objectives outside of the Tier 1 that they just got in top by Trace sticking around. You know, Baron has since replaced the Rift Herald, so not something they can easily pick up, and Dragon's still minutes out, so right now this is just an opportunity for MVP to continue this push, continue picking up objectives left and right with that Mountain Drake.
If you look at the itemization from MVP, they're very much targeting magic damage. They have more Malmort is already complete on Beyond, and then Abyssal Scepter in the mid lane. A lot of pressure on specifically Trace, but also Pilot to help them in any sort of skirmishes. And it's going to be difficult for Elise, Azir, and the Karma to output any damage, at least until the penetration items come in later.
Oh, Bubble not going to connect on the Jave, just missed him by a hair. We'll be able to stay safe, but big group up in that bottom side here for MVP so far. Ian distorting away from Kuzan, and Trace arriving on the back side of that little scuffle. Won't be able to find an opening and just says, all right, well, I'll go back top.
Second Mountain Drake would mean the 1-3-1 could be very powerful from MVP. Trace is so far away from being able to itemize both against Shen and Ian, and he's going to need Magic Resist soon to be able to combat the LeBlanc if we do see Ian rotated into the lane against Aurelia. So for now, a lot of headaches for Jin Air in terms of itemization, and MVP already have a nice lead.
Yeah. Saw the culling used there on Amaha, but Ebb and Flow will sustain him so he can stick around to that bottom side. See which seal item he wants to go for. We've seen a bunch of different ones. My guess would be the Static Shiv, but
Could be Phantom Dancer as well.
looking for that trade potential.
I think I agree with you that Static Shiv, because they have a LeBlanc in the mid lane, going for the ultimate wave clear build from Siva makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Trace can try to trade back and clear out this wave, popping the ultimate. God, I love when they do that.
Also have very low magic damage on the side of MVP, so it's only the burst from LeBlanc, so good chance to stick. But it is going to be the Phantom Dancer, so more worried about scrapping. Just hoping they're not in a case where Jin Air gets ahead, and then they have to rely on the extreme wave clear from Siva.
Oh, Stand United coming out. Nice flash there by Ian, but immediately backs off as the teleport is answered by Trace. So he's just going to group up this mid lane at the moment.
And that was actually a mistake on the distortion, because if he flashed aggressively, then instantly went back to his distortion. That was strange.
Oh, well, Wing's going to go ahead and get taunted up here. It's going to be the dodge field drop on the ground. Flash coming out from Kuzan as he tries to dash away. Trace is trying to sit in the front lines. Dragon has since spawned. It would be a second Mountain Drake for MVP. Definitely want to get their hands on that one, but Jin Air are going to do everything in their power to stop this. We can see Jay and Pilot pinching up from that bottom side. Just going to turn back to the wave. Looks like both of these teams are going to go ahead and abandon this Drake for a little bit more time.
Yeah, Wings will back off, but they have no vision of this Elise. With the fact that he still has teleport, ADD going to be happy to just re-enter into the top lane. Trace's TP is down, so double teleport means that if MVP are smart and send their resources to the right lanes, which crucially has not been something they've been great at, they've been one of the teams that's been the guiltiest and not playing the map and the side waves so well. They have a lot of options right now, especially with their power and their early wins.
Well, on the hunt gets popped, here comes the tidal wave. Looks like it's not going to clip anybody. Trace and Jay are able to get out of there in time, making use of that shield there from the Karma. Now Jin Air gonna feel comfortable to start this one up. ADD still has the teleport available. Will be coming down straight onto that board in the middle of the river. It's gonna drop, and they go straight onto Ian. Trace trying to get the damage in, but he takes a huge chunk straight back onto his face. MVP looking like they just want to kite this one back, regain as much HP as they can. They do have several members chunked low. Winged and Trace as well have taken a considerable amount. Gonna go back to this dragon.
LeBlanc can teleport back in. She's backing now.
They're burning this one down fairly quickly. It might just be a Smite Ward. It's gonna be Beyond coming out on top. Takes that one away. ADD gets the taunt on the wing. He gets popped up in the air by the bubble, and he goes down. It's gonna be the Shen finding the kill. Can they aggress? Can they continue this push? ADD goes forward, trying to get on the Trace, but the Ever's Divide comes out, but here comes Ian over the wall. The chain not gonna connect. The Trace almost goes down, but in the end, it's gonna be an Elise and a second Mountain Drake picked up here for MVP, and they're not done. The pings are coming out onto Baron.
Be risky to start the Baron. Their Baron damage isn't fantastic. They do have a Graves, who is very big at this point. They're gonna try it. Jin Air haven't sussed it out yet, but they will be checking soon.
They pinged it immediately as MVP was roaming over there, so they have some idea that this is going on, but they're not going to be able to arrive in time. Double Mountain Drake means so much damage, and MVP will take a very early dragon here at 25.5 minutes. Off the back side of that Drake, they are in full control of this game.
And while MVP haven't played the sideways well, they have been assertive when they've been given the option to be, especially in this game. It was a nice turn. LeBlanc is actually still walking when they get the first pick. That was a true 4v5 against the enemy. And from there, taking the Baron was a sort of assertive call that some teams find it a struggle to make, especially teams coming from the Challenger League, but very nice. And this is the scenario. This is once again feeling a bit like that Robin Hood scenario for Jin Air Green Wings, because MVP are in firm control of this game.
Well, a loss here for Jin Air would be pretty confusing, really, with how good they've been looking. And also might set a very poor precedent as they do go on to face the Rocks Tigers later this week on Wednesday.
That's sounding like an exciting one, but
or Thursday.
We are in best of threes. The world now knows how great it is to not have best of ones. So this might just be one of those games that came unstuck very early. When we saw those picks, you'd think MVP playing the same comp Jin Air played to great effect last week would be enough of a information on the side of Jin Air to be able to play against it. But in general, MVP have rotated around the map very smartly with all their TPs and the Stand Unite.
EU's still working it out. They don't know the glory of the best of 3 yet. Best of 2's is good for a competitive format, but no one likes a tie, let's be real.
I mean, I am half British, so ties are all right. I'm a big fan of best of 2. I'm definitely a naysayer. I do like this fact that we've always had either red side or blue side being OP for a long time, so the fact that you get to play once on both to me was always pretty attractive for best of 2. Makes scheduling better as well.
It's not a bad format by any means, but
it can be unfulfilling sometimes.
Yeah, coming out with those ties. I want to see one more game to see who really would win.
But then you have those Kongdu Monster versus Spenu matchups that go to the 3rd game, and you're like, I don't know about best of 3 sometimes.
It's very true. That is very true. It does make for longer days as well, generally. I mean, we had 7 hours on Saturday. That was a blast.
Well, I mean, there were asterisks to that.
There was a remake in the game, in the first game. But look at this. Siege coming up here from MVP, splitting in that mid and the top. They get a huge amount of damage in onto this tower. Will be able to finish it up. Finish it off. Wings. It's caught. It goes straight up into the rappel, but doesn't really have anywhere to go. Jin Air, MVP rather, just deciding to go ahead back out of the base. They don't want to overcommit and end up losing out these fights. They're very happy just to take down that inhibitor tower.
You can see how this game from MVP is very different to others. They have such a big lead in the early to mid game that the fact that they play the map pretty poorly doesn't come back to bite them. You look at the bot lane, it's basically equalized in the middle, despite the fact that MVP have had the pressure around the map for at least the last 10 minutes or so. They haven't been playing the lane smartly. With double TP, I mean, Shen had both teleport and Stand United available. They didn't send anyone to the bottom lane. So they haven't monopolized the vision around the bot side either. So MVP getting away with being a bit reckless in terms of macro play purely because they're so far ahead. And now Kuzan is very overextended.
Yes, he is. He dashes back, but here comes the Shadow Dance. They find him. He has to flash away, but the damage is coming through from Baha with the help of Ian. They take him down. Winged as well, sent packing as he drops below half HP. And MVP can just continue to push now in the bottom side and try to get rid of that last tier 2 tower.
We had so many unconvincing Shen games in a row. That's great to see teams really practice this, but you can see that in the scrim culture in Korea, there's been a lot of Shen because every new Shen team we've seen, and even CJ when they return to the pick, look so much more practiced with it. Season 2, Season 3 mechanics are coming back. The Shen pick's been smart, it's been worked well, and MVP, they're looking to ice out the game.
Yes, they are. CPon going to go ahead and keep that Q to the face as they go straight onto this tower. They will work it down to about half. Pilot thirds out the calling, that will dissuade them from pushing forward. Until that wave comes through, ATD is still splitting in this mid side. Trace and Jay both going to roam over to try to answer this one. You can see the ultimate being thrown out, just trying to clear the wave before it can really get up to that turret. But a big wave building up to the top side at the same time.
Yep, so now the minion waves are procced pretty well, so they will have this group minion waves coming top, and I guess Irelia will be sent to Answer. Doesn't really have the tools to do so. The only really champion they have on the side of Jin Air is Kuzan, but I guess Pilot can do a decent job against super minions as well.
It's not super good.
Oh, my apologies. They haven't taken the inhibitor yet.
Yeah, they just got the inhibitor tower. But look at this really greedy build from Ian. Went straight for the Luden's Echo.
He has Abyssal Scepter. The magic resist numbers, if you look at it, are not massive on the side. I guess Locket means that maybe Void Staff would have been the better choice, but specifically if he finds Pilot, there is deletion damage available, and when it comes to Trace with just a Spectre's Cowl, probably going to be doing good damage to him as well.
Yep.
When Irelia's ahead, she can dive in, really take out your carries, but when she's behind and hasn't been able to build up the tankiness to deal with burst in both physical and magic damage form, she will struggle to be a frontline diver.
Well, it's an Infernal Drake.
Yeah!
And Beyond is already on top of this, and he's going to be able to take it away. So Double Mountain plus Infernal for MVP. They have pretty much all of the tools necessary to close this one out. Baron spawning in a minute and a half. They should be able to take that one for themselves unless they give up some serious ground to Jin Air. But with this constant pressure that they've been applying, pushing so forward into the lanes, they're just not giving him that opportunity.
When the Drakes help you out as well, you know that things are looking pretty good in in terms of omens for MVP. But they've been in this spot before and not been able to close. So until the enemy Nexus explodes, never count out the enemy against MVP.
Well, I think they learned to hit the Nexus.
Cast a curse.
But hopefully they will be able to hit the Nexus and kill it this time, as they have failed so many times to do so before.
It sounds like caster bias when you say things like that, but the reason why casters say things like that is you want to see reward for purchase. MVP have looked at their gameplay in the last week. Remember, they haven't played since they were smashed by SKT, and already they've put together a 30 minutes that's probably the best of any game they've played this season. So reward for hard work and improvement is what you always want to see as a caster, but there's always fight in Jin Air, and the moment it goes to 40, 50 minutes, the moment the death timers get right back up, you're worried that a couple of team fights and Jin Air could just pick up the victory.
Yep. And it's not only that, it's also just having those standings shaken up. I don't want CJ Entus to be the bottom team for the entire split. I would love for them to find some success and, knock somebody that's been on top of the pedestal for a while down to that level that they're currently on.
The thing about leagues is growth. You do see the growth of the bottom teams and sometimes the atrophy or falling down of top teams. Jin Air took the first Baron uncontested and nothing will change. Sorry, MVP did. And nothing will change for the second. So a second uncontested Baron for MVP.
A 10.2 or 3,000 gold lead. And Jin Air, don't think there's really anything they can do. Look at this, 3 people hitting ADD. And he's only going to take about 10% of his HP for it.
Randuin's Sunfire Cape, Merc Treads, and Spirit Visage. People are tickling him at this point.
Yep. Even Maha takes a bunch of those shots from the calling. They're just going to get healed back up by that ebb and flow from Max, and this just gives MVP the opening to push in, take out this inhibitor, the first one going down. And now they can just rotate over to that bottom side or even the mid where the wave is getting ready to crash.
How aggressive are they willing to be? No one is truly tanky on the side of Jin Air. They have a pick comp with Shen LeBlanc. Specifically, Graves and Civic can do some decent burst damage also. So we're waiting for that big pick to guarantee the victory for MVP.
Ian goes over the wall, snaps right back. This inhibitor tower being taken quite low. A couple more auto attacks. There it is. We'll finish it off as Maha gets the last one in. Now on to this mid inhib. But MVP still looking to play a little bit more conservatively at this point. Jin Air trying to find some sort of opening with Luzon just can't even position the Sand Soldiers advantageously enough to get damage in and try to poke MVP back.
They just don't have the item timings to really look for a fight on the side of Jin Air. Aurelia behind again. Night and day from an Aurelia who's crushing lanes. So right now, not really pressure in any lane. Shen's teleporting back in as the home guard, but quickly cancels it by autoing.
Coming in on that top side. Looks like he's just going to get the waves moving, try to work them into that Nexus.
Oh, he has a Guardian Angel. That's nice.
Nice. He is literally unkillable now. So just trying to get those waves moving into the super creeps onto those Nexus towers so the rest of MVP can take out this third inhib from the bottom side. Maha actually takes a ton of damage. Cullen comes across. It will pop the shield from the Locket to keep him alive. And again, he still has heals, still has ebb and flow. So they should be able to just stick in this bottom side for an extended period of time. Baron buff still just past halfway done. So they will have these empowered waves for a long time.
Life still also strong on the side of Sivum. He's already back to full health.
Yep.
There's a third inhibitor turret down. Namio
goes down.
sent
Wing
out.
gets found by the taunt. Chain has to go up to the repel to go ahead and cancel that one out. The bubble's not going to connect onto anybody. Beyond still is able to finish off Wing, however. The inhibitor is going to go down now. Super Creeps pushing in from the top 2 lanes, top and mid. Paired by Baron. This is just going to be the Nexus turrets falling. 35 minutes on the clock. MVP, what a concise victory the PM Stance United used at the end. The Nexus falls and Jin Air are down a game to kick things off today.
What is it about summer seasons, Achilles? What's old is new again. Once again, Jin Air return to their roots. This team has always been able to get themselves up for the big games. It's some of these games. It's the reason why whenever you take out a big scalp like SKT, a game against MVP, a game against a bottom 3 team is always a trap game, and Jin Air fall into traps. That's another consistent thing about Jin Air. Really nice performance by MVP. They drafted a Jin Air-esque comp. They played it well. I liked Beyond in his Berserker Grease first. Graves sounded crazy, but he made it work. The movement speed meant they were in position. They got good picks in the mid game, transitioned them into dragons, transitioned them into turrets. In general, played a measured game that was different from a lot of their other wins. 4th win on the board, MVP convincingly beat Jin Air.
That they do. We can see Che doing more damage to champions than Trace did on that Aurelia.
First Aurelia game. C minus.
It kind of.
It could be worse. Competitive C minus.
Okay, sure. C minus. I can do that, I suppose. I was gonna go for a D, but we'll give it a C minus.
D plus maybe.
Okay, yeah, fine. D plus C minus. We'll have a little bit of mercy.
Maybe we need the Maokai again. You know, maybe it's Maokai time. Trace?
It very well might be. I don't know. I mean, the question is like, what is Jin Air gonna do coming into the next game? So now they're gonna be over on the red side. So pick and ban priority is gonna be wildly different. Do they still ban away the Varus, or does Ian just try to get that one for themselves and first pick it on the side of MVP? Because that could be.
You need to
pretty
get
crippling.
Trace something he can play. I think getting the Shen. He played Shen very, very well. I think getting the Shen would be something. Otherwise,
But I think MVP would be more than happy to go ahead and first pick that again.
And there's that possibility. But maybe you leave up something that they get really taken by. Maybe you have to leave up an OP to take Shen. I don't know if the priority on Shen is enough to first pick, or if MVP can cotton on to the fact that Trace doesn't really have many good answers. Now, he could return to Maokai, just go for the team play, something that he does very, very well. But the Aurelia certainly wasn't convincing.
Yeah, not at all. But we'll see what happens when we come back for Game 2. MVP finding themselves up against Jin Air. We'll see what happens when we come back in just a few minutes.
Played a lot of you, my winning. It's like 25 the last that you bust out of prison. Something's in the air, something's in the air. It's like that feeling when you're just about to kill it. Take your last shot, you know you're gonna hit it. Something's in the air, something's in the air. Whoa. Something big, I feel it happening out in my control. Pushing, pulling, and it's grabbing me. Feel it in my bones like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Something
롤챔스는 여전히 잘 돌아가고 있네요. 사실 급작스럽게 여러분께 롤챔스 하차.
네, 여러분들 또 위클리 LCK에 백수 한 명이 찾아왔습니다. 네, 자기 발로 나갔기 때문에 이 롤챔스 현장으로는 갈 수 없고 어쩔 수 없이 또 만만한 위클리 LCK에 왔는데 정말 뭐 가증스럽지 않습니까?
조은정이란 이 세 글자는 이미 없어진 지 오래가 됐고 무려 1년 반을 여러분과 함께 했는데 서운합니다, 여러분. 서운합니다.
널 갖기엔 못생겼어 쿵쿵쿵 뛰는 가슴이 말해 이 소리를 들어봐.
뭐하고 지냈어요, 요즘에?
저는 지금 요즘 과제문이라서 학교에서 굉장히 열심히 과제를 하고 있고 친구들이랑도 좀 시간을 보내기도 하고 네, 그러고 있습니다.
근데 사실 롤챔스 하차하고 나서
네.
많은 분들이 아쉬움을 표했지만 오래 가지 않았단 말이에요. 바로 잊혀졌는데
네.
그때 좀 서운하거나 그런 건 없었습니까?
솔직히
사람이라면?
그렇죠. 사람이니까 좀 서운하긴 했어요. 아무래도 제가 뭐 학업 때문에 나가긴 했어도
그러니까.
많은 분들이 좀 오래오래 저를 찾아주시고 좀 보고 싶다 해주셨으면 했는데 역시나 오빠들이 너무 잘해가지고
그러니까요.
네.
그리고 또 많은 분들이 사실 기대하셨던 것이 또 스포티비에 이영경 아나운서님과
네.
조은정 아나운서의 맞대결 이게 성사되지 않았어요.
네.
이영경 아나운서님 하시는 거 보셨습니까?
봤죠.
어때요?
워낙 말이 꼬여.
거짓말을 하면 말이 거예요. 거짓말을 하면.
아니 워낙 이제 행갱이라고 불리시면서
그렇죠.
또 엄청난 인기를 누리고 계시기 때문에
조은정
입조심을 해야 돼요.
그래서 이영경 아나운서 어떠냐고. 딴 소리 하세요.
이영경 아나운서가 저보다는 나이가 조금 많기 때문에 그래도
난 어리다?
네, 난 어리다. 저는 풋풋한 여대생이니까 그래도 엄청 큰 장점 아니에요, 여러분?
그럼요. 장점이죠. 자, 요즘 너무 할 일이 없어서 시간이 많다는 우리 조은정 아나운서와 함께 위클리 LCK 첫 번째 소식 함께 하겠습니다.
자, 흑염룡이 다시 협곡을 누비기 시작했습니다. 정글 그 자체, 뱅더 정글 갖기. 뱅기 선수가 104일 만에 뱅더 출전하기?
그나저나 이렇게 뱅기도 다시 나오는데 CJ 샤이 선수는 안 나옵니까? 샤이도 나오라고 샤샤샤.
만나긴 좀 그렇고 미안해.
지난주 롤챔스의 영원히 미이라가 될 줄 알았던 아무무가 등장했습니다.
나를 뽑아줄 줄은 정말 몰랐어요.
네, 정말 몰랐네요. 약 3년 전 벽을 못 넘은 갱맘 옆에 함께했던 클템의 아무무 이후 무덤 속으로 들어간 아무무. 그 후 팀다크의 트롤링으로 더럽혀지는 수모를 겪고 그리고 클템의 코스프레로 귀여운 모습까지 잃고 뱅 선수의 부적 속에서나 어렴풋이 추억되어진 아무무가 긴 세월 봉인을 뚫고 MVP 비욘드 선수에 의해서 드디어 3년 만에 다시 부활했습니다. 경기 내내 클템을 열광하게 만든 아무무. 클템 소원을 풀었네요. 혹시 클템을 위해 스카너 픽해주실 그런 정글러는 없습니까? 없다고 합니다. 자, 넓어진 관객 속으로 텅텅스를 면치 못했던 롤챔스 대 상암시대. 드디어 썸머 시즌 최초로 전석이 그냥 매진됐습니다. 박수! 대단하지 않습니까? 괜찮아요, 예. 왜 뭐 하시는 거예요, 지금?
죄송해요. 장군님께서 직접 행사하셔서. 자, 오랜만에 보는 빼곡히 꽉 찬 관객석. 이로써 SKT와 KT의 대결은 최고의 흥행 수표임을 증명했는데요. 하지만 그들의 경기가 끝난 지 2시간이 지난 지금 550명 다 어디로 가셨을까요? 위클리 LCK 좀 구경하고 가시지. 저 오늘 여기 있는 줄 아셨으면 많이 오셨을 텐데 여기 조금 계시긴 한데요.
지난주에는 한 명도 없었어요.
그래요?
네. 자, 위클리 LCK 롤챔스에 불만이 있거나 서운하거나 하시는 분들 언제나 환영합니다. 뭐 지난번에 참여하신 미니 형을 비롯해서 이제는 롤챔스에 기억을 하실까 모르겠지만 또 엄지경 해설님 그리고 좋은 날의 권희슬 아나운서까지 모두들 다 환영하고 있습니다. 아무튼 많이 와주시고요. 서운함을 토로해주신 우리 조은정 아나운서 너무 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
네, 저희는 다음 주에 다시 돌아오도록 하겠습니다. 다음 주에 또 만나요.
안녕.
은근히 길쭉하다.
네. 아까 비가 잠깐 와가지고 습기가
덥겠다, 잠바.
네, 좀 더워요.
속에 반팔
네, 있어요. 안에 있는데
왜 긴팔
그-
입었어? 규정이 그래?
아니요.
벗으면 안 돼?
그 무언가 튀어나와서
아, 꼭지?
네.
아.
저희 팀도 그래서 다 이걸 입고 있어요. 빠른 애들 빼고.
오늘도 여기 클래식 오는데 오늘 조은정 아나운서님 나오는 거 아니냐고.
아니 저번에 봤는데 있으셔서.
지난주에 있었지?
네, 근데 선글라스 끼신 게 이쁘시더라고요.
아, 조은정 아나운서.
네.
조은정 아나운서한테 영상 편지 하나 해보세요. 볼 수도 있어. 조은정 아나운서
네.
잘 봐요.
네.
보세요 한번. 저기 보고.
네. 다음에 다음에 이런 상암에 놀러 오시면
떨리네.
제가 지나가다 볼 수 있게 한 번만 보면 그냥 좋겠어요.
뭔 소리야?
뭔 소리인지 모르겠어.
소원을 말하지 말고.
소원이 말하죠.
아, 그 정도로?
네, 아닙니다.
아, 여자친구는 있어요?
없어요.
뜸들였는데?
아니에요, 없어요.
뜸들였는데? 진짜 없는 거 맞아요?
네, 없어요.
알겠습니다. 사실 MVP가 제법 아쉬운 경기도 좀 있었어요.
네.
3억째기 이것도 그렇고.
네, 한 명만 플래시 썼어도 되는데.
그러니까.
그래서 요즘은 다 게임 끝낼 때 플래시 써 하면서 오늘도 다 썼어요.
아, 오늘 다 썼어요?
네, 오늘은 다 썼어요. 마하가 한 번 못 썼어요.
마하가?
네, 그래서 욕 먹었어요.
아, 진짜 이거 보띠오 안 되겠네. 보띠오도 건강 관리 좀 해야 돼요.
네, 요즘 운동하고 있어요.
아, 그래요?
네.
한 거예요, 그게?
네, 6kg나 빠졌어요.
아, 진짜?
네.
빠진 거야? 티가 안 나.
아닙니다.
아, 그쪽 또 해야겠네. 열심히 해야겠네.
네.
Beat in sync with the fast track. All eyes are searching to the black. Come back and get back a little more.
All right, welcome back. Your MVP from Game 1 was ADD, Deathless Game on the Shen. And just a good response time there with all of those Stand Uniteds. Really made the plays happen. Landed almost all of the taunts, actually.
Yeah, the taunt accuracy was impressive, and this is the first time MVP have won a game. And the MVP didn't go over to Beyond, but he also had a really nice game with that Berserker Greaves, Rush Graves, and in general, MVP played this comp, specifically the Shen LeBlanc double TP solo lanes to aplomb. They were really, really on form. They knew their limits, specifically knowing that Beyond with that movement through to get those extra auto attacks in, being able to flash over that thick wall by ADD. This was a nice play by him. And in general, they didn't falter. They were very consistent in what was a quick victory for them. And now Jinner are kind of going to be an hour later wondering, how did this even happen?
Yeah, 35-minute game there for MVP. Definitely a wildly impressive performance to see ADD coming through.
Beautiful.
Here, still just weaving that dash forward onto Kuzan even after the Embers Divide. Just well played overall by the team. I mean, this was one of those matches where MVP could have gone to anybody on the squad, really. Everybody was playing very concisely and just playing well together.
And that's the exciting thing. It's a team victory. You could look back on those first 3 wins and think that Beyond really set them up, but everyone was playing well. And on the side of Jin Air,
There was no clear carry this time.
Yeah, and on the side of Jin Air was honestly the struggles of Trace in particular, I think, that exemplified the problems, because the bot lane was pretty much a wash 2v2, but it was the top side of the map. The LeBlanc was actually played very well by Ian, going for that assassin. It's not the Ahri, but he played the LeBlanc well. And the question marks are really out on, can Jin Air find a better top side of the map? The solo lanes and the jungle, I think, needs to be set up better, because Winged, again, didn't have much of an impact this game. I wouldn't necessarily level the problems at him, but the Aurelia, to me, was where the wheels came off for Jin Air.
Yeah, he was like the hoo-hee of this game, I guess you could say. Ooh, sorry. Anyway, well, yeah, we were talking about that before the
You need to
before
calm
the break.
down over there.
How they're gonna correct this.
Calm down. Center yourself. All right.
Are we Shen? No.
We are. We're standing
We're
united.
not
Wait, no,
Channel?
that's Monty and Dell. They're
Okay.
Shen.
Yeah,
we're not Shen.
We're not taking that.
The
from
box
them.
at the bottom doesn't say Shen for us.
It does not.
It did say it for Monty.
It did.
That was my favorite part of the whole cosplayers when they finally came on screen. They were announced as Shen and Shen.
Yeah, that was
all-time seminal moment.
a moment that'll go down in history. They
And
had a
then
lot
Riot,
of those.
Then Riot was like, "How can we stop this? No more blind pick." So game 2.
Anyway, so we were talking about how this Shen is going to be stopped because really it seems like it just has to be taken off the board. I think that makes the most sense. Oh, okay.
We're seeing a rotation.
Here we go.
They're gonna bring back Blanc. I don't know if the problem was Kuzan, and after getting a double MVP against SKT, it seems a bit harsh, but and give Blanc his chance. Maybe he's been preferring something different in solo queue, and it'll give them another option in terms of pick spans. But they can find a way to get access to a pick like Shen, or at least set up the Trace to have a favorable matchup, maybe get him something like the Trundle that he can play quite adeptly. That could help. So maybe this is a champion pool thing, but I'm surprised to see Kuzan one middling to poor performance and already out of the team.
Yeah, I guess they feel like they just need to change something, and maybe they don't want to put Soan in instead of Trace, so they decide to just put Blanc in because he has had good games. But this is going to be a very interesting decision. But once again, it just comes back to that top pool. What is going to happen? What's going to be banned this time? Because there's so much from the side of Jin Air that they still want to take off the board against MVP. The Varus being a really big one that now they're on the red side. Rise almost certainly going to have to be banned by them unless they want to give that one up. So they have a really limited ban pool that they can pick from. And I feel like MVP is still going to get something very critical to their success.
And it's the top lane they're going to focus on. Once again, looking over the picks, I noted them down. On 6-11, we've seen Shen, Echo, Trundle, Gnar, and now Aurelia. The Aurelia, I think you don't return to the other picks. The Gnar was a loss, and in general, Trace has been very poor on Gnar. Gnar vs. Maokai was, of course, the matchup that really prompted all the Gnar back in the day. And Gnar vs. Hecarim to a lesser extent, but we saw Trace frequently dying in lane against Maokai, and a lane he should be able to counter. So I don't like the Gnar pick from him. Shen, we already know, is going to be contested, probably banned away. The Echo was nerfed. What's next is the question. I think it has to be Maokai or something new, and he'd already tried something new, and the results were there for all to see.
Bring out the Jax. I want to see it.
He's actually played some competitive games of Jax. We mentioned it was his first ever game of Aurelia. He's played plenty of Jax. I don't think we're going to see the Jax.
Someday said that he wants to play it, but his team just won't let him. He was talking about that.
You know that Expression's in the same court, because Expression
Probably
is the Jax player in Korea now that Flame's not here anymore.
Well,
and Shy also not playing.
Expression needs to get a little bit more consistency before he can go on to something like that, I think.
Maybe.
But
his Aurelia's good.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, you got that one going on, but you never know. Looks like we're just waiting for the players to get into the lobby.
Here's what I'll say. There is a champion that Trace has played a lot of that works, and that's Rumble. Now, Rumble is a possibility.
We've seen that into the Shen.
It worked. The laning matchup's good. You force him to go magic resist, no Barmy's Cinder unless you're ahead. You don't have an interrupt, but if you take a teleport in your mid lane, it's less of a problem. So if you leave up the Shen, and that's probably not something Jin Air should do, but in that world, just go back to the Rumble. He wasn't an outstanding Rumble player. He's not Smeb. He's not Marin in that particular way, but he was a good Rumble player. He was safe, so he wasn't like Marin who would either get a kill at level 4 or die at level 4.
Yeah.
He's a much safer laner. Go for the safe Rumble pick, because at least you'll have some lane pressure. The Aurelia, honestly, Shen is a pseudo counter pick to Aurelia, and he picked Aurelia into Shen and got bodied.
Yeah, that definitely is not the draft that we want to see repeated here for Trace's sake, but hopefully something like the Rumble will come out, and maybe if we need to go back to just very consistent, the Maokai, and then you just have two guys.
Could Swain, I guess.
Two guys that just want to beat the crap out of you.
He can interrupt at least.
You can, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Swain's like really underwhelming on this patch at the moment.
Trundle, I guess, is the big pick. You could just go Trundle and split push just a plenty and swap farm, and then if you're on point with your TPs, and Trace usually is, then that should be fine. But
Fiora.
You really want to see the Trace Fiora. That's what you want to see?
No, I don't. I don't want to see any Fiora other than some days at this point.
Smeb, Duke, someday. The carry tops, let them play Fiora if they want to play.
No.
We already saw Dukes, and he struggled.
I don't want to see Dukes play.
Look, if Duke gets anything this season, it's at least one reprieve. Come on, this guy's had an excellent season.
On Trundle, mostly.
But the carry mindset players, sure, give them the Fiora. It's when the tank players are playing Fiora, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, you need to have Reckless Abandon. You need to be able to push without wards if you're going to play Fiora.
Yeah. If Duke played nothing but Trundle for the rest of the season, that would be wonderful. Because it's like watching, I I don't know, like a good
Reach
like,
for it. Come on. No, you
just a classic movie, something that's beautiful to look at, like Lawrence of Arabia, Casablanca. You know, a Miyazaki film. Like there's a bunch.
Pick one.
It's just Spirited Away.
Spirited Away, sure.
Well, actually, Princess Mononoke. That's my favorite.
I asked you to pick one. You picked two.
Okay. I changed my mind. Princess Mononoke.
Okay, that's
now
fair.
you pick one.
See, I've never seen a Miyazaki film all the way through. I know that's something you can hold against me. I'm sorry, OGN Legion. I haven't seen any. I've seen a lot of Pixar films.
I'm this close to walking off the desk.
I can solo cast. I don't need you.
All right, good. I'm out of here.
All right. See you later.
I would stand up, but I'm wearing shorts.
See? That's the reason. That's why you never wear shorts and cast Achilles. You can't storm off effectively.
But see, no, I thought this through. It was a piggyback broadcast day. I said, you know what? Something could go wrong. I need to be comfortable. I don't need to be constrained.
You've been wearing pants most of the year.
Yeah, but most of the year we didn't have this.
That's true.
So right now we just have Trace and Winged in the lobby for Jin Air. All of MVP looks like they're ready to go. So
Blanc settings maybe?
Long bathroom break.
I think settings for Blanc would be the most likely thing. Strange.
So this is still...
It's not usually this much downtime. It's usually, I think, 4 minutes it usually takes for a single player substitution. But we don't know. As you said, piggyback broadcast. But I'm just happy that you can't storm off. It's nice having you here. But if you weren't wearing shorts...
I would never leave you.
Kappa Pride.
Indeed. I'm with you to the end.
Thanks.
Or Monty,
Achilles.
depending on the day.
Whoa. Already
I'm sorry.
flip-flopping here.
Yeah.
What is it with you and flip-flopping?
I like to live aloof and, not get tied down.
Really? Is your girlfriend watching this?
I hope not. She might be. She's bored at work, so who knows?
Sorry.
That's the struggles of when your girlfriend works the night shift in America, so she can always watch the broadcast.
That's
so
true.
You have to watch your tongue.
Send your long-distance tips to Achilles. At Achilles Casts.
Thank you. Thank you for the bump.
No worries.
It was
That's
much
the bump
needed.
you were looking for.
No.
You're going to check your followers. It's going to be like relationship advice and stuff like that.
I'm going to get all these weird followers and stuff. But okay, here we go. Looks like everybody is set. And Blanc is in the game. You can see the bands coming out. It's going to be Twisted Fate and Trundle from the side of MVP.
Still the Varus band.
Yeah, Varus band and now LeBlanc taken away by Jin Air.
I like the Trundle ban on blue side. Trundle's a pick that every team can play, such as the power of Let's Pick Trundle, but trying to narrow down Trace's champion pool, I think, would really behoove MVP. I don't know if they realize this, but I feel like Trace is in a bit of a corner on this 6-11 meta. So let's see how the draft develops. So if Trace actually has a trump card that he hasn't shown
This
yet.
could be the Shen. Oh, or Nidalee.
So much power available.
Nidalee
This is what we
did.
mentioned that Jin Air could do, is there's a lot of tempting picks that you can leave out there. Beyond has been their carry on multiple occasions. You can understand valuing the Nidalee that high, and giving Nidalee to Winged is not really a great spot either for MVP.
This is actually really smart by Jin Air, giving them a bit of a catch-22 scenario. So might just be the Nidalee going over to Beyond, but this opens up Jin Air to snatch up a couple really priority picks, something like a Karma and the Shen. They could go a multitude of different ways. They could even go for the Azir, which is something that Blanc has played in the past.
So many tempting junglers. Remember, all junglers available. So Kindred, Rek'Sai, Elise available. So Jin Air will definitely have a great tool to respond in the jungle. It's just, can they find a trump card? Because I feel like they've set up this situation for them. Will they reach for a top laner, or am I just overblowing Trace's struggles on 6-11?
I don't think you are. I mean, granted, KDA doesn't tell the whole story, but if you look at his KDA compared to that of the rest of his teams, it has been severely lacking. We did mention that early on that he has been looking to play more utility tops like the Shen, so he's going to be more willing to sacrifice himself because he doesn't have to carry. But even so, it is a little bit worrisome, and this would be worrisome as well if they want to draft the Victor and Graves in their first rotation.
I mean, Azir is available, so it'd be strange to see a Victor blind pick.
Take the Shen.
Shen as a blind pick would make a lot of sense, but they actually do reach for the Victor. Now, this might be a reality of Blanc in particular, because remember, it's a different mid laner. Kuzan is a well-known Azir player. It might just be that Azir doesn't really feature in the recent practice plans of Jin Air, but seeing a blind pick mid laner and it not being Azir is almost insane to me in the first rotation.
Well, now MVP gets to play around. They're going to hover the...
Skarner.
I couldn't even remember his name. He's been gone.
He was in the video.
Yeah, I know. Still, just went out of my mind that quickly.
The tribute picks are real so far, and I think you take the Shen. I think you're surprised that it's still available in the second rotation of the picks. The Sivir was actually important.
So strong for
They're going to
MVP.
match Waper. They don't want to give away Victor and Sivir, and now it's round 2 for Jin Air. What is their answer to a top lane Shen? Because the Aurelia, maybe they just throw out that performance and they've got another string to the bow, but I was not convinced by Trace's Aurelia.
Yeah, neither was I. And the other thing is, do you take the Karma away in this, or do you give that Karma Sivir draft over to the side of MVP, who are still going to be looking for a support? Jin Air, they went from having a strong start, and then after that first rotation of picks, it was just like, well, I don't know what's happening anymore.
Because this is what you're trapped into. Trace played well on the Echo in the top lane, even after the nerfs, but every Echo we've seen would be like, man, it's not the same old Echo. And versus Shen can itemize pretty decently against you. You get a little bit of magic, you have only one interrupt, and it's the most situational of interrupts against the Stand United when it comes to actually proccing the parallel convergence. So I really don't like this matchup. I feel like Shen can really run away with it, but Trace doesn't have any other answers, and they do have to go for the Echo.
It's also the Kalista, as you mentioned, the Echo, not something that's had power since the changes. Kalista as well, really fallen out of favor. We saw a Kalista just the other day paired with Zyra in the bot lane, and it just couldn't do anything.
I mean, the Zyra was core JJ and his first ever competitive game as support, so that's about as big an asterisk as you could ever ask for.
Even the Kalista alone didn't really
It's not old Kalista, but in a world where Lucian is less of a reach for pick, double left accepted, that I think Kalista actually does have some merit. She's not as strong as she was, but she does have a play. She has a 2-item power spike, so does Echo, so does Victor, so at least the power spikes, maybe Graves accepted, are aligned on the side of Jin Air. Wait and see where MVP goes, because they don't have access to the Graves, but Nidalee certainly even more powerful in terms of a dueling jungler. I want to see another teleport mid laner, but with a Blanc off, there aren't a lot of aggressive options outside of that Ahri that they've been flashing so many times.
Well, looks like they might just go for the Azir, and they do. They lock this one in for Ian. So MVP gonna try their hands at the Azir, see if they can have a better performance than Kuzan.
But they don't have someone who can react with the Shen Nidalee. That's the important thing to note here, is that Azir is almost always the second champion to rotate, can push in early, but in general has to play with a defensive mindset. Victor has Ghost Flash, probably will stick with Ghost Flash, so we'll have one extra spell to rotate faster. So it's not quite the same identity as the Graves, Shen, LeBlanc trio that they had last game.
Now Thresh, the long hover here for Jin Air. We've been seeing more and more of him.
It's also the lane.
Late, but
Kalista Thresh is the who do I focus lane.
It was the most suppressive lane a season ago.
I mean, it's got both the fact that you don't know who to focus, and it's a ranged auto attacker, which works really well with Kalista's passive. So in general, for a lot of reasons, Thresh has always made a lot of sense. You've got a pseudo pick comp with Bard and specifically the Shen on the side of MVP, so a lot of value in the Lantern from Thresh. So I think Thresh does fit in really well, but Jin Air have found themselves in a really awkward spot in this draft. I don't understand Victor in the first rotation from Blanc, with Azir open, with Shen open, just looking across the Shen pick that ended up going second rotation that very much dominated the first game. Now, Jin Air are a good team. It's a solid draft. They could definitely win this game by just outplaying on a macro level. Even MVP showed some weaknesses in macro play despite their victory. But the draft, I'm not convinced by.
Yeah, neither am I. And it's really going to come down to Trace pulling everything out of the hat with this Echo, because he has not been in a good spot as of late.
Or it's on Jin Air as a team to just grossly outplay MVP in the early game, because they were a bit lambs to the slaughter in game 1.
It's very true. We'll see whether or not the Drakes want to favor them today, or this time around, I should say, or if it's going to be something like a Cloud Drake that'll just sit there for a while. I mean, they do at least have objective confirmation with the Ren from the Kalista, so that does improve their chances a little bit more, as we saw Beyond winning that Smite War earlier on in the first game.
But if MVP get ahead in the early game, Beyond gets ahead and has a Shen to back him up, I think MVP can take this. But in the late game, good team fighting options from Jin Air if they can answer the Shen split push, and just the fact they have that Echo versus Shen matchup.
Well, we'll have to keep our eyes on Trace and ADD yet again. Our MVP top laner, this time on the Shen for the second game in a row. And then, of course, Beyond, who's been a very big carry from that jungle, now with the Nidalee in his hands. Let's see what happens as we get into game 2. MVP looking at closeout. Well, it's Mountain Drake.
So far, so good.
So far, so good indeed, Papa. The big question now is what follows it? What comes in after the Mountain Drake? There's only one way to find out, and something tells me we won't until about 10 minutes into this game.
We're answering a lot of cliffhangers. What happens after Jin Air beats SK Telecom? So far, it's the old playbook, not the new
MVP,
one.
maybe. But this is good. We live in a world where anything can happen in the LCK.
Winged returning to the Graves. He had stolen away by Beyond in game 1. It's Thunderlord's Graves. We've seen him go 2 schools of thought with this Graves. And the start of the week, it was Yoma's Ghostblade, Duskblade of Drakthar that captured everyone's imagination. But it's very much the team fighting build in game 2. And you look over the side of MVP, Magic Damage jungler, Magic Damage mid laner, probably going to be more Malmortius rather than the burst build from the Graves.
Would only expect that, at least for his sake. Blanc, though, bringing out the Victor. I believe this is the few games that we have seen him as most played.
But again, I think it's a bit of a misnomer to say bringing out the Victor. They reached for this Victor. First rotation pick.
Oh,
there's a lot of fights here.
Yeah, Cosmic Fighting comes through from Max, so he will not go down. But that was a very aggressive invade, trying to spot them at the Gromp, but they just find him around the corner instead.
They also take damage onto Max in trade for about 20% of Pilot's health. And of course, Max will have access to more potions than Pilot, so early lane control will go over to MVP.
Yep. Relic Shield is there for Che, so using those charges, he will be able to help sustain Pilot back up here and there. Still, MVP in a good spot to kick things off. Callista's going to be suffering unless you get those minions prepped well underneath the tower.
And the lanes are observed once again. Lane swap in this series.
Yep. And another Doran Shield here for ADD.
Strange, I mean, I actually looked over patch notes and we saw a couple more Doran Shield just to confirm that nothing had changed, but it's been a long time since Doran Shield changes, but players moving over to that item. On a champion like Shen, you know, on a non-mana champion, then not really behooved to pick up the corrupting potions, so you look at other options. Could be the Ruby Crystal, that's what Rumble players usually go for, but Doran Shield, fine choices for him.
Gives him that sustain to stick around. You can see that Trace has already used 2 of his charges. So we'll be running out of those if ADD can continue the aggression up on that top side. Maha gets rended out, throws out the Boomerang Blade, but he's going to be on the less half of that tree for sure. Hook doesn't connect, and he will be able to back off. But it's good aggression there from Jin Air. We need to get that bot lane rolling.
One thing Trace can do with this Echo is early game push in the Shen very effectively. We'll see if ADD feels like he can disrespect Trace enough to go for a Balmy Cinder, which is usually a very important purchase for Shen to have any options to push. But if he's forced to go into the more likely Spectre's Cal, it will delay lane control. So it means that lane pressure, something more difficult for Echo to get after all the base damage nerfs, should still be there for him in the early game.
For now, going to be a pretty quiet one beyond coming up with a roam to the top side, but Rush is warded, so Trace is going to be able to stay safe. They throw down that pink and we'll be able to clear it out. But Winged is coming up. He could go through the brush.
This would be really telegraphed.
Oh, that's a really nice, well-timed ward there by ADD.
Yeah, I thought he was just walking up to harass, but that was actually, as you mentioned, warding the forward brush. Means no counter gank is possible from Winged. It's very hard to sneak that ward in, so the fact that it's obvious is not that much of an issue.
Yeah. We get stuff, and that's just going to allow for Nidalee and Graves, both of whom are going to be pretty content to go ahead and farm up to continue to do so. Try to get some leads. It will be Chilling Smite for Winged yet again.
Vision on the side of MVP is very impressive when you notice that Jin Air have no vision down whatsoever. Nice pink in the brush in the top lane.
2 wards.
Yeah, they have 2 aggressive wards and the Scuttle Crab, and just single ward down from the side of Jin Air.
No, 2 wards from the Jin Air. 1 in the top, 1 in the river.
Ah, okay. Good point, but I just like the...
It doesn't really make it any better.
Sure, and it's still splitting hairs. It's before vision can be picked up. I just do like where they're put down on the side of MVP because it allows Shen to really push aggressively in the top and have almost full information about what's happening on his side of the jungle.
Yeah.
And because he's Shen, can teleport back in pretty happy. Gonna have Standing Knight soon.
Max is gonna get grabbed. Lantern comes out, and here comes Wing. That's gonna be first blood. The Rend coming out there from Pilot to confirm the kill. Maha taking a bunch of those stacks as well. He's gonna take them. a good chunk of damage, and Jin Air able to pick up the first blood. Not going to get botched like it did in the first game.
Didn't quite have Shen ultimate available. The reason you can just teleport back into lane as Shen is that you usually have standing and hide for those fights, but still level 5, couldn't answer. If he teleported in, they wouldn't have confirmed a kill. So all in all, just a nice place from Jin Air, and Hard has those low base stats, so when he face checks, that can be a reward for Jin Air.
He's not going to have 6 for a little bit longer. Needs a couple more minions, maybe even there it is. Gets that, so now he can do it, but still going to be a very nice pick up there from Jin Air, but we're still suffering a gold loss, or at least close to a tie because of the CS discrepancy in the jungle and that top side.
ADD did go the aggressive route because he was winning in CS early. He went Barmy Cinder first, so these trades from Trace are actually going very well from his side. No potions now available for Shen, so he's going to have to be careful.
Yep.
Difficult to turret dive a Shen, but definitely possible.
He does have a good amount of sustain, so I think he'll be okay, but certainly doesn't want to keep clashing with that Echo as much as he is at the moment.
Not till the Spectre's Cowl can be completed.
We'll see if he wants to split off from that, or if he's still going to be able to play very aggressively and go for the Sunfire Cape.
I think the Spectre's Cowl is almost guaranteed. Barmy Cinder, it's not Sunfire Cape in terms of raw damage to minions, but it's enough to give some presence and not allow Trace to have his way with the lane. If you let the enemy laner push you in or freeze the lane as they want to dictate, then you give a lot of power over to the side of Jin Air.
Well, we can see it right there with the No Magic Mantle for him. Well, Chaos Storm gets thrown out. Ian Sand United's going to come out. Blanc on the run. Will blow the flash, but here comes ADD. Barely misses the dash. Will get locked up by the gravity field. It looks like he's going to be able to walk away with his life. Here comes Beyond, though. The Javelin flies straight and through, and it will be the answering kill, but they had to invest a lot to get that one.
But the Roar doesn't stop there. They're going to try and take this red. Will Winged walk up? There is 2 members there.
Trace is coming in. Looks like Wing does take that one away with his smite.
But they're able to kite back down. Beyond can walk to his mid lane. There's not going to be any extra members from Jin Air to answer.
Trace trying to get some damage in.
They're going hard.
He flashes in, trying to get the slow onto ADD, get that move speed increase. Parallel Convergence gets thrown out. ADD will get caught in this. Here comes Wing. Do they have the damage to finish him out? And the blind comes through. Looks like it's going to be a yes. He falls, and Trace finds the kill.
Looked like ADD